Hello geometry students, welcome to our edition of notes titled 2-1 Angle Pairs. I'm going to set these notes up a little bit different, so follow along with me. Originally you have a piece of notebook paper, it's the next notebook page in your journal. Go and turn to that page and I want you to divide it into 4 sections, kind of 4 even sections going down your page, and you can have a line down the middle. That line will be created when you fold the paper in half. Okay, and when you fold that paper in half going towards the left, you get those 4 sections again. And we're going to title each one of those complementary angles, supplementary angles, vertical angles, and linear pair. Go ahead and pause the video, get your notes all set up, and then we can get started. Okay, like we said, 2-1 angle pairs is our title. And we're going to go through each one of these types of angles and give you some examples and definitions of them. So when you open up your piece of paper, the first one we're going to do is complementary angles. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to put some definitions. And the right-hand side will be examples, what they look like. Okay, so the definition of complementary angles is 2 angles whose sum is 90 degrees. 2 angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to draw what it looks like. One way I can have it drawn out. And this is a 90-degree angle because it's marked. Remember, it's based on how it's marked. One 90-degree angle can be split into 2 angles, and therefore both of those angles are complementary. Another way you'll see this drawn out is we might just have 2 separate angles. So here's one angle. I'm going to say this angle is 30 degrees, and then another angle, wherever it is, I'm going to say that angle is 60 degrees. Both of those angles are complementary to each other. So two different examples of complementary angles. So we notice here that my angles can be right next to each other. We call them adjacent angles because they share this wall, or they could be non-adjacent. So I'm going to add that to my definition. Adjacent or non-adjacent. Okay? Now, it's important if we think about this with a statement, and we've talked about geometric statements. So a geometric statement that I can make about complementary angles, since both of them add up to 90 degrees, I'm going to label these here angle 1 and angle 2. Okay? In this case, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is going to be equal to 90 degrees. If I make that geometric statement with any 2 angles that I know are complementary, they're very easy to solve and figure out what they're asking for. Okay, my next type of angle pairs are supplementary angles. Supplementary angles you might already know. 2 angles whose sum is 180 degrees. Is 180 degrees. Okay, and again, these can be adjacent or non-adjacent. Okay, so let me draw that out. Let me draw them out as adjacent angles. We should also already know that a straight line is 180 degrees. Okay, and then all the way around that straight line is 360 degrees, same thing as a circle. So a straight line is 180 degrees. And if I simply just take that line and split it into 2 different angles, let me label this angle 3 and this angle 4. Those 2 angles then are supplementary. Let me zoom in here. Hopefully that'll help. Sorry about that. All right, those 2 angles then are supplementary. So the statement I can make, if I was to make a statement, is that the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 equals 180 degrees. Okay? So on a straight line, they equal 180 degrees. I could also draw them separately. So if I had 2 angles, say for example, this angle was 107 degrees, 107. What would be the supplement of 107 degrees? Well, the supplement is a fancy word for supplementary angles. Okay? And so that supplement could be drawn out kind of looking like this. They both have to add up to 180, so 3 more than 107 is to 110, and then 70 more is to 180, so 73 degrees would be It's supplement. So those two angles are supplementary. Those are non-adjacent angles. Our next type of angle pair are vertical angles. This one might be new for us. Okay, so definition of vertical angles are two non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. Formed by intersecting lines. Let's draw it out. If I just have two lines that intersect, one line and then another line, no matter how they intersect, no matter what they look like, since they intersect, I have vertical angles. And the vertical angles are across from each other, this direction. If you kind of think, let me label this, sorry, 1 and angle 2. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. I kind of think of this representing a letter V and this representing a letter V just upside down. You also might notice that these look very similar to each other. It just so happens that with vertical angles, they are always congruent. And I'll put a star here. This is important. Vertical angles are always congruent. Congruent means the same. So we could fold these on top of each other and realize that angle 1 and angle 2 will become the exact same angle. If I have one set of vertical angles, let me mark these congruent. If I have one set of vertical angles, I also then have another set of vertical angles. Let me label this 3 and 4. Angle 3 and angle 4 will be congruent to each other, and so I got to use two arcs because I've already used one arc. That's a question I've gotten. How many arcs do we put on there? How many ways? Well, just as long as they match up the same. Those both have 1, those both have 2, so they're congruent to each other. Then a statement I can make is that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2. Starting with that statement, I can then substitute the values and keep going from there. Also, the measure of angle 3 is equal to the measure of angle 4. Okay, so we see that represented. The last set we have is our linear pair angles. Again, something that might be new for you. Let me give you a definition. Definition of linear pair angles are two angles that are adjacent and supplementary. So the big words here, adjacent and supplementary. Two angles that are adjacent and supplementary form a linear pair. And if you look at the word linear pair, you might see the word line. Just like collinear, we see the word line. Linear pair, we have the word line, so they make a straight line. So if you draw a straight line, there's two angles, so I could divide this line into two different ones. This is an example of a linear pair. You've seen this already up here with supplementary angles. So this type of supplementary angles that were adjacent are just a linear pair. So that's our word that we have for that. Okay? And so we already have our statement written out for that. This is just what a linear pair look like. You see the word linear pair a lot more often than you see supplementary angles. It's the appropriate geometry word. Okay? Make sure you have those notes just like this. Oh, the cool part. When you have this then, you can fold it back over. If you take a pair of scissors, and if you don't have scissors at home, when you come back to school, I'll give you a pair of scissors. You can cut this where you divided it. Okay, we cut that, and now we have a study aid. So you can fold this over and say, okay, complementary angles. Tell yourself what they are. You can flip it open, make sure they're the same. And so it's a great study aid, a foldable that we can use. Don't forget your WSQ. That's how I give you credit for these notes. I'm going to leave you with one more thing. If you want to, on the next page, if you want to copy this example down, I'm going to start with this example in class on tomorrow. The next day we meet, I'm going to start with this. And if you can solve this using those if you can solve this using the angle relationships we just went over, you'll be in good shape. All right, guys, have a great day.